Oh, absolutely. You know, it's interesting because my car accident, so I got hit by a drunk driver, which is like so much of life, it feels like is out of our control. And that morning, like I was on my way to a wedding going to meet my parents, and all of a sudden, I'm literally crashed into head on and my world changed. It just went upside down in a matter of seconds. And I didn't realize it that morning, but it was in the weeks and months and now years that have come since then. That happened 10 years ago, that I've realized the power of that moment on a lot of levels. I think, my perspective on life totally shifted in realizing that, wow, everything that's unfolding is really unfolding, for us and on part for us to learn what's within us and kind of guide us into the path we're supposed to be on. And it's so crazy because that guidance, took me to Asea, which I'm happy to get into that story. And I'd love to share with everyone because it was such a powerful journey. But what happened was, for a year, I was resistant to my injury and I was really pushing, and I was a mess psychologically.
Bad, wasn't it? I mean, you were literally pretty much.
I couldn't work. I had to stop. I had been teaching at the time. I ended up back home and my full focus was just on trying to get myself healthy. But my world I didn't recognize it. Like I couldn't hang out with friends. I couldn't get on screens. So I couldn't be on a computer or TV or phone. I couldn't handle any sort of input. I kind of glaze over it sometimes, but it's like there was so much I could not spend my time doing. And I was really in bed most hours of the day. And we had blackout fabric, in the bedroom because just even natural light was too intense, and, noise would set me off too. And, it was rough. I mean, I would have panic attacks that I'd soak my shirt from crying. Like it was a really intense time. And my doctor told me after a year that this was my new normal. 24 years old. And he says to me, look, your body's done the healing it's going to do. This is just something you're going to have to shape your life around. And I'm like, I remember sitting there and thinking, well, you're fired. Like, I wish the words had come out of my mouth, because who knows how many other people who said that to, but something within me refused to accept that. And I just thought, this isn't a life worth living. Like, I can't do this. I'm 24 years old. I can't earn an income. I can't hang out with people. I can't do anything. And I'm so grateful that, the answers ended up coming into my world. But yeah, Catherine, it was tough.
And one of the things I loved about your story is your mother found out from a holistic therapist about the Asea, and yes, she tried it and had great results with you and your father. But your biologist mind kicked in. Danielle and I are both biologists. We have so many fascinating conversations. But I think that's really important because there are so many products on the market, aren't there, that no wonder people are so skeptical.
Yeah, no kidding. And for myself, so here's what happened. So he tells me that, right? And I immediately have this resistance to the notion that this is going to be forever. And we kept searching, this whole time we were searching for alternative things. But my mom used to run a yoga studio, and she had some incredible clients in the Annapolis, Maryland area. And one of them was an acupuncturist. And she called my mom and she said to my mom, listen, I found something revolutionary in my practice. It's like nothing I've ever used before. It's going in and it's helping each one of my clients in a different way. And she was describing how this was going, and it was basically just increasing the signal so that person's body could find the damage and then the body could repair itself. And she said people with digestive stuff, it was working on hormonal things, and she said, she was the one that said, I believe it could pass the blood-brain barrier and it could help Danielle. And so my mom, I mean, you have to imagine it's like on a silver platter, right? The answer in front of her. And she just intuitively was like, yes, brings it home to me. And she met a wall because I was like, Mom, did you look into this stuff? Like, all those claims sound ridiculous. I said, did you look at the ingredients? It's water and sodium chloride. I said, that is salt water. And I said, your friend's involved in a scam? No, thank you. And I literally got online and I Googled it and I showed her. I said, yeah, see, there's some website talking about it's a scam, Mom. Like, and I just like totally ignored it. But my mom, she believed her friend. She's like, Danielle, I know that she's correct, and like she's seen it visibly in her practice. Like, why else would this be other than them taking the redox? So my mom started drinking it. And Catherine, I witnessed this happen in front of my own eyes, and I still couldn't accept it. My mom had bone on bone in her hands. Like, she could not even make a fist. so much inflammation. She starts drinking this. Within 6 weeks, she has full range of motion coming back into her hands. And I watched it, and you could even see like her knuckles were not as like angry looking. And I remember thinking like, it's got to be a placebo. Like that stuff certainly didn't do it. But my dad, he wasn't as thick-headed as me. My dad was like, okay, it helped your joints. Let's see what it does for mine. My dad had a knee injury from 30 years prior, and starts drinking it. And literally within 10 days for my dad, he wasn't having to wear his brace because he wasn't having discomfort. He was working out on a level. He said, I feel like I'm 30 years old again. Like I'm repairing quickly. I've got energy. I'm doing more than I feel like I should be doing at my age, but I can. And that's when they went, all right, what is this stuff? And my dad's a bit more analytical too. And so he was like, well, what's the science on this? And they started researching. And what's so cool is there's initial, because like we're talking the beginning of when Asea was out there, the initial studies and research a lot of them were on athletes. And so my dad felt very validated and like, yeah, okay, so these mice were being shown to have more endurance. And he's like, that's exactly what's happening with me. I'm rowing way further. I'm running way further. And so then they were told, like, this is a massive field of science. And I'll never forget them coming back to me and saying, Danielle, Asea didn't make this up. This is a field of science that is just too new. You weren't taught about it in school. It wasn't in your textbooks. And I remember thinking like, oh, sometimes in life, like you don't know what you don't know. And our ego, I think, gets in the way sometimes. And we think, oh, I know everything there is to know. You don't. And so I said, okay, well, this stuff can't hurt. It might help. Let's see what it brings me. And I still thought they were wasting their money. I still really couldn't understand what it was, but I didn't have immediate results like my parents. It was 3 months, literally like 90 days before I noticed anything. And they had me drinking double. I was drinking 8 ounces a day. And around the 90th day, the pounding that had been in my head relentlessly for 2 years, like it stopped. And all of a sudden I could focus again. I had energy again. And I remember my cognitive therapist saying to me, I'll never forget this moment. I'm sitting in her office across from her. And she said, Danielle, I've worked with brain injury for 30 years. Never seen someone have such a rapid recovery so far out from the trauma. And she said, with your injury, it doesn't happen. The hell is that stuff you started drinking? That was the moment that I went, yeah, what is that stuff? Because my answer to her was, it's salt water. And she said, clearly it's not. So what is it? And that was a catalyst. Like you said, you have these like inflection points in your life, a conversation, a person, a moment. Obviously my accident was, but it was actually her saying to me, this isn't normal. You should not be having the progress you're having. What did you do? Because for 30 years, I've never seen this. That's when I stepped back and went, okay. And then her next words were, all my other clients need to know this is out there. And I thought, yeah, we have a responsibility to learn what this is so we can tell them about it too.
Now let's cover this. It's not just salt water, because there's so much information out there. And obviously when you look at the ingredients on the bottle, it says that, but it goes through a huge production process. Can you talk us through that, Danielle?
Yeah, I was actually just out at their production facility like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's incredible. It takes them 3.5 days to make what's in that bottle of Asea. And yeah, let's talk about it. So this is what's so beautiful, right? Life is so simple. Your body is basically a sack of saline, and there is a reason. The body uses it as building blocks. So it uses the sodium and chloride of salt, and it uses the hydrogen and oxygen that's in water, right? Water's H2O. And your body takes that and it rips apart those bonds. So now you've got sodium and chloride floating around and hydrogen and oxygen floating around. And then the body just reformulates different molecules. All right. So superoxide, right? Bring a bunch of oxygens together, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. It's just got one more oxygen than water. And it's a very different molecule doing very different functions. And so that's what's going on in the chemistry of our body, in every cell. This is done in the mitochondria. And just the issue is that our mitochondria are less efficient after puberty. And so as you kind of go through life, the production of these reductants, the ones that end up net negative, and oxidants, the ones that are positive, that's where the term redox comes from. But these redox molecules, the production declines with age. And so all of a sudden, these molecules, which in the body, when they're restructured and reformulated, 2 to 4 atoms big, they are then sent out and they have different functions. They're signaling, like when there's damage, they're the alert call that goes out. And so as you're aging, that alert call, it just gets quieter.
Mm.
And so the beauty of what Asea has is they take the same base ingredients, literally as pure sodium chloride as they can get, and as pure H2O as they can get. Like they take all the dissolved solids, everything out that they can, because they just need those building blocks. And then Asea has figured out something that takes nanoseconds in our body to do. It takes them 3.5 days, but they figure out how to break the bonds and reformulate and get these reductants and oxidants structured so that they're sitting stable in that bottle. And it's not like scientists haven't known about this, et cetera. It's just that the impossibility factor was you can't put a reductant and an oxidant in the same vessel and not have them react.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to have hot and cold water put into a bottle, and the hot water stays on that side and the cold water on that side. Like it just, no, you're going to get lukewarm water, you know? Yeah. And that's what was decided with reductants and oxidants. Like it's like stabilizing a spark. They're just too active. Mm. So when Asea figured this out, it's like, it's phenomenal.